This is the Venerable Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche seminar entitled The Theory and Practice of Meditation, held at Naropa Institute in Boulder, Colorado. This is talk number 3, July 24th, 1978. This is an ARP digital remaster made October 2007.
Theory and Practice of Meditation, Talk 3, given on July 24th, 1978 at Naropa Institute Summer Auditorium. The lecturer tonight is Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche. The title of the talk tonight is Mahavipashyana.
Tonight we're going to discuss the Mahavipashyana in continuing need for some basic principles of shamatha mentality approach. That is to say, some sense of extraordinary concentration, or some sense of actually applying oneself to the state of mind that exists in ourselves in terms of able to see every detail, every perception with the method of mindfulness of breathing. The purpose of shamatha being a way to look at our thoughts, our body, our sensations, so that we can actually make use of them as a way to actually quietening ourselves by way of a concentration, some sense of very precise, on the dot. And Mahavipashyana is beyond the basic Vipassana, which is the development of insight that has been discussed in the last week by the regent. So idea here being the notion of a basic Mahavipashyana, reason why it's greater Vipassana is a question of what's the great? What makes greater? In this case, it makes greater because there is a tremendous sense of cheerfulness taking place out of the basic notion of simplicity. Simplicity of that of the shamatha technique, shamatha practice. The basic notion of cheerfulness is that when your mind is being zeroed in to the state of mind of shamatha experience, which is very precise and very direct, on the dot, then you begin to expand beyond that. And begin to develop a sense of rising up, uplifting. The delight we discussed in the early part of the first talk on the shamatha is taking pride in having a good time in the precision. But in this case, we are talking something beyond that, in which you begin to experience some sense of actual vastness level That kind of vastness is based on the idea of that you have no hesitation to experience a tremendous sense of vision or a tremendous sense of expansion in your life altogether. So Mahavipashyana view is the meditator of such a person is no longer reduced into a little narrow vision approach, but they begin to expand their sense of vastness. That is to say, the notion of awareness is expanded a lot. That it is not only during the sitting period of discipline alone, but it is expanded beyond that. It is expanded while you are taking a shower, brushing your teeth, and going about regular business in your life, including when you drink your coffee. And that is known as intellect, strangely. Prajna, which is a Sanskrit word, prajna, intellect. The basic notion of intellect here being that you are actually paying attention to your life. Your food, your clothing, your perfume. Every aspect of your life has been included. That is why it is known as a Mahavipashyana. However, there is need for that very precise level of shamatha discipline is absolutely necessary and very important. Intellect here doesn't mean analyzing oneself or making whole thing into a scholarship in the negative terms, pejorative sense. But intellect here meaning that some sense of inquisitiveness in which allows ourselves to experience facts of life, happenings of life, become full and good, that we have no longer left any mysterious corners in our whole life at all. We begin to appreciate everything that goes on in our life, and we begin to like it. Sometimes things are shocking, obviously, and disappointing, sad, for that matter. Or sometimes things are cheerful, good, and terrific. But however, all of those happenings of mental contents are no longer rejected as just purely piece of garbage, but included in every aspect of everything goes on in our lives, are included. And with a tremendous sense of interesting glance takes place to the situation, that with the training of concentration, of shamatha, and then Vipassana opens up our fan completely, that we don't feel all that bad or not too good. It is to be said, Vipassana without shamatha is like trying to hold water still. That is to say, the stillness of the water is dependent on that of shamatha, obviously. The water meaning vipassana, this fickleness and some sense of openness and inquisitiveness, which could be led into wrong situations. The shamatha makes you steady. And also, shamatha is often symbolized in the notion of candle, flaming candle, which is glowing by itself, self-glowing. It lights itself up. But if there's no shamatha, then it would be like a candle in the midst of wind. Quite possible it will blow off completely. So we mustn't look down on the notion of shamatha as being something that you just get rid of, but shamatha being extremely important to cultivate vipassana. But on the other hand, the notion of shamatha purely just calms ourselves. But it doesn't cut through the neurosis. The only way to cut through neurosis, beyond calming ourselves down, is that notion of vipassana. It's very important. The reason why the vipassana concept or experience cuts through neurosis is because vipassana has a further interest in our life, beyond just purely being concentrated in one spot alone. And vipassana does provide some sense of humor. Because there's some sense of joy taking place, which is the Mahavipashyana approach, and some sense of no resentment is the key to it. Often we find our students, practitioners, have a great deal of resentment. That resentment is not coming from just purely having negative thoughts about oneself or one's situation in life, but that negativity and resentment comes from not having enough vipassana experience. When we begin to experience the notion of basic vipassana, we begin to also experience some notion of relaxation. That we can actually afford to relax. And not to be self-conscious. We can actually take pride in our existence, our situation, as what we are. Therefore, there is a relaxation and openness to the situation at large taking place. And the Mahavipashyana concept is also honest one, that we are not trying to strategize anything at all. Simple, ordinary human perception exists in our lives, and we are trying to relate with that, and in turn, all that is trying to bring into a level of practice. That doesn't necessarily mean to say that when you practice Mahavipashyana, one has to stop sitting practice at all. On the contrary, sitting practice does bring the basic notion of a Mahavipashyana altogether. Sitting practice becomes literal and direct, complete. So in turn, we begin to experience some sense of joy in living. According to the Buddhist path, we are talking in terms of at the beginning of a shamatha level, be on the dot. Experience your dignity and fullness by means of your breath, dealing with your thoughts. And then you develop a basic vipassana, which is expand your sense of field of awareness, that how much you can actually handle the notion of sound, and sceneries, and feelings, physical feelings, and thought levels, and how much we can actually develop, expand our sense of awareness. Mindfulness has developed at the level of shamatha, and awareness we can develop at the level of vipassana. And then there's greater awareness takes place in the Mahavipashyana level that will actually include our whole life. Everything. That the light reflected on your face, on your body right now. And the sound you hear from the traffic, and the sound that you hear from the talk, and the sensations you feel in your body of heat or hot or cold, whatever. And all of those situations could be included. So in turn, we don't feel that we are wretched. And we feel that we are sharpening our basic sense of existence by a notion of joy, some kind of joy, if you have any. I'm sure you do. So we begin to feel individual, person. In the Hinayana tradition, there's a term called Susotarpa, which literally means individual salvation, which sometimes viewed as negative situation. But in this case, we can talk in terms of being individual salvation is absolutely necessary. So every individuals who can save themselves from themselves begin to experience some sense of tidiness. And in turn, that's being transmuted everywhere. So a group of individuals could create enlightened society, which we are not particularly talking tonight. That wasn't the issue. Just in case, if you need a reference point. Individual salvation is way to step and way to find starting point first. It is like turning on your engine before you travel on the road. Turning on the engine and putting in your gear shift is individual salvation. To make sure that you have your own particular situation is related properly, you and your world are synchronized properly so that we can actually launch. Do our things properly. So that seems to be the basic point of a Mahavipashyana, is to experience life in the fullest sense. And we even don't talk about sanity here necessarily, but sanity is implied because if you experience your sense perceptions, your level of your life, and your particular entertainment in your life, your sense of existence at all, if you have direct and proper experience with them fully, thoroughly, that is sanity from this point of view. And that is the seed of enlightenment, definitely. There's nothing beyond that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't babble too much. We maybe should have a discussion at this point.
Rinpoche, at other times you've given a definition of Vipassana as the fire that burns conceptual ego mind. And there was presented as some very natural way of overcoming resentment, of untying the knots of ego or burning up ego. And here your presentation was so completely positive that it seemed as if one could go along and never even notice that ego was defeated. Ego was never even met in some sense. Is there an experience of actually seeing a knot of aggression and untying it or destroying it in Vipassana, or is it simply complete positivity and good feelings?
Well, we have to realize that what we're talking about, experiencing life fully, means that we have to give up your ego. Otherwise, we can't experience our life properly at all. So, the approach here is taken from a point of view of just simply doing it without negotiating too much with one's ego. So this is sort of all hands on the deck approach. But that doesn't actually imply that one had to deal with one's basic stuff. In any case. And a sense of cheerfulness means one has to give up one's dear old depression, which we cherish and we like it so much, which is known as ego. And things like that often happen. So I think we are saying the same thing actually, at this point. So the question is cheerfulness opposed to depression. We often enjoy going back to our own little home, little cocoon, little thingy that we used to dwell in so much in our womb. We want to go back to that particular situation and praise that so much by saying that how much I appreciate it by going back to my home ground, my cocoon, and my little womb is terrific. But here where we're talking about is going beyond that and stepping out of the world, so to speak, appreciating what you have all around you.
Is there a sense of having some barrier to break through in order to reach the cheerfulness? As if, you meet a moment when you have to give up ego. Well, that doesn't feel pleasant. That's a moment of some kind of experience of renunciation.
You do it all the time. One has to do it all the time. We can't expect at the right occasion to click in, just as like when the doctor is about to perform an operation on you and make sure that he will give you anesthetics. One has to do it all the time. There's no appropriate occasions at all.
Well, I suppose the cheerfulness pervades that occasion as well.
I think so. Definitely so. Too bad.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other cheerful person who would like to ask a question? There's one.
I come from Italy, where violence has become really a public danger, very dangerous. Violence.
What was dangerous? Violence?
Violence.
What? Virus?
Violence.
Violent, violent, yes indeed.
I don't know if you are acquainted of the thing that happened to Italy.
Yes, I know.
So,
I follow the news completely, yes.
Yes. Do you think that such violence comes from social or from individual roots? And do you think that meditation could help to transform it?
Here's our market. Well, I think it would be interesting to try meditation in Italy, which would be good. And it would be excellent. We call aggression, which is a product. Aggression is the starting point. From the aggression, you have the violent. And also something to do with the class system of a social setup as well. That when you have aggression mixed with rebellionism, of not willing to accept individuals' place in their own ground properly, fully. If you're a school children, they should be school children. If you're a schoolmaster, they should be schoolmaster. And when school children begin to throw ink blobs at the schoolmaster, and you upset the whole society altogether, and you have nothing to study, nothing to work on, so it becomes violent, and that escalates with the whole situations. I think if whole of Italy sat in meditation, that would be great. And out of that, tremendous political theories will come up, which would be good and sane, and we don't have to kidnap anybody. Because at that point there will be no key figures, because everybody said, which sitters you choose to kidnap? I would say sitting practice is a key point there, absolutely. Overcome violence and passion. Definitely so.
Yes. I want to ask you, what would you do if you would be kidnapped by a radical group in Italy?
Personally,
Yes, because it is
sure,
happened in Italy
sure. Well,
to an holy man.
it'll be fine with me. I will tell them lots of jokes and make them bored. Continue.
Avvisare si dice advice. Vi posso avvisare. Thank you.
Back. Over there.
Do you feel that enlightenment can be awakened through a sense of faith without the process of self-understanding?
Faith? What kind of faith are you talking about?
A basic sense of trust through your own intuition.
Well, that's one way of the beginning. That takes at least first 3% of your journey. And then, after that, you begin to be so inquisitive. You want to find out what's going on. So you will be exposed to some kind of prajna, intellect, automatically, which is necessary as long with the sitting practice.
It is necessary.
Absolutely necessary,
Self-understanding.
yes. What? Self-understanding?
Well, the process of understanding.
Process of understanding rather than self-understanding, yes.
Right.
Which is the tremendous differences between the two. Self-understanding is self-made, and the process of understanding is going through a training, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I understand. Hello. I understand there are different levels of awareness. I was wondering if there is one level of awareness which we can all experience identically.
Do you want to? Or you don't want to?
Well, I'm just curious as to what is.
Well, the question is, would you like to or you don't like to? Would you like to experience with everybody so it would be the same thing, or you don't want to because you want to have something for yourself?
No, I think it would be nice, but it's not necessary.
Well, that answers the whole question.
No, not exactly.
Yes, I think so.
I guess so. Thank you.
Anybody else? Last one. All right, gentleman with the design on his shirt.
I was wondering how meat eating fits in with the vow that you should try to save all sentient beings.
Are you a vegetarian?
Yes.
You are? Well, it's a very interesting question, actually. Well, you have two choices. Either not eat meat at all, so you don't have any connection with the sentient beings. Or you eat lots of meat, so you have a more connection with sentient beings. It's a question of keeping one's hand clean or keeping one's hand dirty. Personally, it doesn't feel so good eating somebody else, obviously. That's terrible. But pragmatic sense of involving yourself with the fish, cows, yaks, whatever you have, you are involving yourself more with other people's body and connecting with that, which might create actually a furthermore sense of compassion and a furthermore sense of actually you are willing to commit yourself into somebody by eating them, which is, it sounds terrible, but on the other hand, we do that anyway, like happens all the time. If you run into somebody in the corner and step on somebody's toe, which is the same as meat eating. So, we are involving ourselves with the rest of the world that way, which makes us to not chicken out and stepping out of their world. You could, if you like, to commit yourself to somebody's life. Eat them. We have to digest, however, properly. This is a Buddhist pragmatic logic, nothing to do with the Hinduism of keeping oneself clean, of the Kriya Yoga tradition of keeping yourself sattvic all along. But we are talking in terms of how we can actually relate with the universe, relate with the world. That's what we're talking about here. Thank you.
Would the circumstances under which the meat was raised and slaughtered be of any concern, of be a matter of investigation at all?
I think so, a lot, yes, definitely. It is very complicated philosophy, this point.
If the circumstances of the raising were such that, for all practical purposes, meat raised was not a sentient being at all, but was merely a product and treated essentially as something dead, made to suffer in the process.
That's
and so
the
on.
possibility, yes, that person what we're going to eat, it could be a natural birth, a natural death situation. But the American Health Code doesn't prove that. Had to be slaughtered on the spot. And in fact, we have a lot of housekeepers in our house. If we cooked meat and refrigerate them, our housekeeper come along and throw them out when they were slightly questionable textures. And they wouldn't accept that at all. It's just throw them out. It's a natural Ajax philosophy. That whole thing should be cleaned out completely, so there should be fresh meat could come in, which has been somewhat problematic in our economy as well, because we have lots of good meat in the refrigerator, and a lot of them thrown away, which makes the situation uneconomical. So basic idea is that we should be able to handle sentient beings. We should be also able to handle old meat, at least 3 years old, 3 days old maybe, and shouldn't have any problems. According to Buddhist tradition, 3 hands, that is to say, generations of 3 merchants. But that seems to be stretching the logic too much at this point. I think we better adopt the Bodhisattva approach to eating meat, which is the idea of that acceptance of sentient beings, what we eat. And if we don't eat them, we are rejecting them, which is quite shocking in some sense. But on the other hand, it's very genuine. It's very genuine. We're not trying to stretch logic at all. How do we get in this? Talking about Vipassana. I would like to encourage everybody to practice. If you want to find out the meaning of Mahavipashyana at all, altogether, and sit a lot, and work with the discussion group leaders, what we have, which will be very important, necessary. Without that, you have no understanding what we're talking about. So please try very hard. Then you will understand more. Thank you very much. Okay. Have a good time.